kind. This morning, we're discussing Legally Savvy with Robyn Hey. It's all those legal questions that we don't know the answers to. Robyn.
Well, I wanted to be a lawyer ever since I was a little girl. I've never ever wanted to be anything else. I'm one of the few people that really, like from day one, knew what I wanted to do. And I got into law because I have an overdeveloped sense of justice. And because I really like people's stories. And law is an opportunity to listen to people's stories and tell people's stories.
Wow.
But I know you from quite a few different spaces. I've seen you at the Business Women's Association, I've seen you at BNI, and your name keeps popping up. Every time I look on social media, there's Robyn Hey speaking about this and Robyn Hey speaking about that. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So I chaired the Business Women's Association in Cape Town for 4.5 years. And through that, I just developed so many new business skills and networks, and also saw the need for entrepreneurs to get access to accessible legal information. I also work with BNI, which is a business networking international, and again with small businesses, growing businesses. It's really important that entrepreneurs get access to information that they ordinarily wouldn't. Law is probably the most boring topic to talk about if you're not a lawyer. Lawyers love it, but everybody else not so much. So I started incorporating storytelling, case studies, examples from my own practice of what really can go wrong and how to avoid that. And it's really taken off. People really want the information.
Fantastic.
I personally love how you bring a whole kind of different energy to the perception that us lay, public have of what a lawyer is. And I've seen you talk, and I've been a client, and it's just, I love you. Like, if there is a thing, if lawyers I think have a bad rep, and I think you're totally breaking that mold, and
Thank you.
Particularly I love that about you.
Thanks.
And just to introduce my partner, Abigail, the legal groupie, who's here this morning.
No, it's very awkward, Abigail.
In business, when we've discussed this before when we did our section on business plans,
Yes.
there is normally a section that starts off, and very often the first part of the business plan says, what legal requirements do we have to run a business? So maybe we can start off with that, and please be kind to us. We are not attorneys, so we're trying to make this nice and simple. When I start a business, what are those first questions I should be asking my attorney?
So that's a really, really good question. And if more people asked those questions before they started in business, we'd have fewer problems. The first question you need to ask yourself is, does my industry have any requirements? So, for example, if you want to open a law practice, you can only be a sole proprietor, which is somebody who works for themselves and no entity at all, a partnership, or an incorporated entity. So that's what my industry says. If your industry doesn't have any requirements, then the next question is, am I going to be tendering for work at any point? So am I going to be tendering at government? Is this being set up to do a specific project? Because often tender documents have requirements that you are a private company or a trust or whatever. So you need to look at that. Then you need to look at, why am I setting up this business? So if you are setting up a charity and you want to operate with other people's money, then you need to have certain structures in place to give you credibility and to keep you protected from the risks of doing business. So then you would need an entity. But if you are just going into business, you don't, and it's just you don't need to have the most complicated legal structure in the world. You can just start. If your business grows, you can then convert your business into an entity, but often people get quite bogged down in the structure before it starts. I know that's what lawyers are always famous for, saying that the answer to every question is it depends. But the answer to every question is it depends.
Yeah.
So it really depends on you and what you want to achieve. But it's really important that you speak to a lawyer that understands business, that they can actually advise you on when to convert, what you should do. If there's more than one of you, your risks are different. So those are the kind of factors we take into consideration.
Can a sole proprietor have more than one person?
No, then you become a partnership.
Okay.
So I'm not the biggest fan of partnerships because it doesn't have longevity. So even if you never fall out with your partner, if your partner dies, the partnership dissolves. If the partnership goes insolvent, all of you are sequestrated. It's all very dramatic. The minute there's more than one person, I prefer to structure a company, because
So does
it's
that include
easier.
a secretary, not a partnership?
No, I'm talking about two owners of a business.
Okay, 2 owners. And
Yeah.
if I've got workers that I
No,
want to have?
that's fine.
Still stay under sole proprietorship.
Yeah, there'll come a time where that business just can't function as a sole proprietorship. Especially if you're going to start signing lease agreements. A lot of the time, because you've got the protection of the Consumer Protection Act, if you're an individual versus a company, they won't. Commercial landlords won't sign with individuals. Okay. Photocopiers you can't get if you're an individual. It's very difficult. So there are all sorts of things to bear in mind as your business grows. And also, as your business grows, there are tax implications. And do you really want to have personal liability for staff? Business is a living thing.
Sure.
So the other thing, it's a bit like, you can't buy a house and never maintain it.
Yeah.
It's going to lose its value.
Yeah.
You can't start a business and never maintain it. So as your business grows and changes, you need to make sure that you have got on your war council, which I think everybody needs, a lawyer, an accountant, somebody who understands marketing, somebody who understands HR, that you've got a living relationship with them. So you can pick up the phone and say, we're going to buy our first property, what should I do? Or I'm hiring my first staff member, what should I do? And actually have a relationship that has got legs, that you can actually grow together.
So as a lawyer, do you, going back to one of your early points, that depending on the industry that you're in, so do you have to know then every industry to be able to advise accordingly?
No, I don't have to know every single industry. I wish I did. But one of the things about law is that we know generally what industry is required, but if you're going into a specific, you'll know if you're a doctor what you can do. If you're a lawyer, it's really only the professions.
Okay.
And also you will bring us the tender documents, for example, and you'll say, look, this is the requirement, and we'll say, okay, well then you need to set up a company.
Okay.
And we ask those kind of questions. Do you know whether there are any regulations in your industry? So if you have always been an engineer, you will know what you can do.
Yes.
If you've always been a lawyer, you'll know what you can do.
Yeah.
If I wanted to sound very clever and I was walking into your office for the first time, and I said, I'm starting a business, and I'm starting a business as a photographer, professional speaker, and I wanted to ask you 3 things. What would those 3 things be?
So you want to ask me 3 things, so you look very clever.
So I look very clever. So I know which questions are that I should be asking.
Asking a lawyer.
I'm asking them.
Okay, so the first thing you should ask a lawyer is, what do they specialize in?
Okay.
So it's pointless going to a criminal lawyer if you have got a commercial problem. It's a bit like you're not going to go to a cardiologist if you have a brain tumor.
Okay.
It's the same thing. Okay. There are general practitioners, but more and more law is becoming bigger and bigger as a field, and you tend to specialize. I wouldn't get divorced with me. I don't do divorces, for example. So that's the first question I would ask.
So we're looking for a commercial lawyer.
You're looking for a commercial
In business,
lawyer.
I'm looking for a specialist commercial lawyer.
Correct.
Okay.
The second question I would ask is, what is your fee structure?
Okay.
So don't be afraid to ask that. People seem to think that they can't ask that of their lawyer, and lawyers actually, believe it or not, don't like talking about money. So what tends to happen if you're not with a lawyer who's experienced is you all tend to awkwardly avoid the issue of fees, and somebody gets unhappy. So ask up front, is there a fee for the first consultation? What do you think the anticipated fee is? Does that, if you, for example, we quote a certain amount for a first draft and 1 round of comments of a document. Okay. And that includes the consultation and everything. But some people charge only by the hour, some people charge on a contingency basis, so you need to ask those questions. And the third question that you can ask is, do you have any other clients that are in the same position as me? Do you work in this industry?
That's a nice question.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that.
Knowing that you've got experience.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So as a lawyer, even the fact that we have a specific client is privileged. So you can't say to me, give me the name of 3 clients, because we have to get permission from our clients to do that. But we can say, yes, I've worked with photographers before, or we've done a lot of work for independent service providers, or I understand the speaking industry, or whatever it is.
Okay. Well, that's very useful.
Yeah, and don't be afraid of your lawyer. They're more afraid of you than you are of them.
And so if somebody is starting out then on their journey of entrepreneurship, what would you say are the top 3 priorities that they need to focus on getting their legal ducks in a row?
Yeah. So the very, very, very first thing that needs to happen is you need to have the hard conversation with the people you're going to be working with.
Can we just stop it?
Yeah,
We
sorry.
just start that sentence again. I can re-edit this.
Oh, can you? Sorry, I forgot our coffee machine was right out here. I'm like, obvious.
Okay, let's try. What was the beginning of that sentence?
I'll just ask it.
Yeah, just ask it
the
again.
question
Sorry.
I can just clip it.
As I heard it, I was like,
Yeah, and us.
I know
Oh,
we've
gosh.
had far worse than that. We did it at a golf course last time, and then all the golf carts started reversing a beep, beep, beep. And someone started washing dishes in the wall behind, and they're like,
yeah, no, sorry, this is not the most soundproof of venues.
That's all good.
all right.
So as an entrepreneur, if you're starting out on your entrepreneurial journey, what would you say they should prioritize in terms of getting their legal ducks in a row?
Yes, so the most important thing is you need to know what you need to do, what you want to do. So you need to know, I'm going in this on my own, I'm going in with a business partner. And if you're going in with a business partner A is going to do these 10 things in the business, and business partner B is going to do those 10 things. This is how our salaries are going to be structured. This is the bonus payment. This is when we're going to declare dividends, things like that. Once you know how your business is supposed to sound, then you come to a lawyer and we will give it a voice. My name is Robyn Hey, and you can find out more about my practice on www.rhattorneys.co.za or Robyn Hey Attorneys on Facebook.